Your father is dead, sweetheart. The accident was on Tuesday. The remains are not viewable. We need $28,000 by Friday, or the funeral home releases him to the county. My mother said it on a Wednesday afternoon in October of 2024 while I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of a Whole Foods in Burlington, Vermont, on my lunch break. I had just bought a turkey sandwich. I dropped it on the passenger seat. I have never eaten a turkey sandwich since. She sent me 3 things over the next 48 hours. A scanned death certificate from the province of Alberta, Canada. An obituary clipped from a small Ontario newspaper. A Zelle request for $28,000. I wired $28,000 by Friday, then $42,002 weeks later, then $24,000 in January, $94,000 total, every dollar I had saved in 7 years. 23 months later, on a Saturday evening in September of 2026, my mother stood at the head of a long table at a country club in Westchester, raising a champagne flute to her engagement to a wealthy cardiologist named Roland Vesper. The doors opened. A man walked in wearing a navy work jacket with a Suncor Energy patch on the left chest, holding a printed copy of his own death certificate and 3 sheets of paper he had photocopied at a Kinko's in Calgary 48 hours earlier. He was 64. He had a beard streaked with gray. He had not seen his daughter in 2 years and 4 months. He was my father. This is the story of the 72 hours after he walked through that door. The folder I had been quietly building since the day his obituary did not match the dates on his employment records, and the moment my mother understood that the man she had buried on paper had come home holding the receipts. My name is Nora Haverson Whitfield. I am 31 years old. I work as a senior medical social worker in the oncology unit at the University of Vermont Medical Center. I lived a normal, careful life, nothing dramatic until that call. I have a younger brother named Caleb Haverson. He is 22. He is a senior at Cornell, majoring in economics. He has been quietly keeping his own folder since June of 2024, 4 months before our father's death, because Caleb has known something was wrong with our mother's stories for most of his life. The most important thing I own is a small wooden box on my bedroom dresser. Inside the box, a birthday card my father wrote me in 2012. A photograph of the 2 of us at his work camp in Alberta in 2018. A printed scan of his actual employment timeline, which I obtained through a Canadian Freedom of Information request in March of 2025, and which proved that on the date my mother had reported him dead, my father had been alive, working, and signing for safety inspections at a Suncor extraction site near Fort McMurray. He had been alive on the day of his own funeral. Before we go further, if these stories move you, subscribe, hit that like button. It costs you nothing, means everything to us. Now let me tell you about the woman who tried to bury him. My mother is Sylvia Haverson, born Sylvia Mee Cresswell. She is 58 years old. She has worked as a real estate agent in Westchester County for 30 years, a woman who has spent most of her adult life above her income and below her appetite. My father is Daniel Haverson. He is 64. He has worked for 31 years as a petroleum extraction engineer for Suncor Energy on a 22-month on, 4-month-off rotation at a remote oil sands camp in northern Alberta. His salary, with remote camp bonuses, runs approximately $138,000 US a year. That number is the foundation of every lie my mother told. My parents separated in 2018, quietly, without divorce papers, because my mother told my father that a divorce on paper would complicate Caleb's college financial aid forms. My father, who had spent 27 years working in remote camps and trusting his wife with the home life he could not be present for, agreed to wait. That agreement was the door. Between 2018 and 2024, my mother had power of attorney over my father's checking account, his retirement portfolio at Vanguard, and his employment paperwork at Suncor's HR system. She controlled the mailbox. She controlled the bank statements. She controlled every single piece of information my father received from a satellite phone in a metal trailer 4,200 kilometers from her bedroom. Tens of thousands on home renovations, a luxury car, trips with another man. all funded by someone she was already planning to claim was dead. By August of 2024, my mother's personal credit card balances totaled $76,400. Her relationship with Roland Vesper had escalated from affair to expectation. Roland was, in the careful language of his accountant, prepared to consider marriage upon resolution of certain prior obligations. My mother needed to clear her debt. She also needed to become a widow. Both problems had the same solution. October 9, 2024, Wednesday, 1:47 p.m. Whole Foods parking lot in Burlington. My phone buzzed. Mom, she did not say hello. She said, "Sweetheart, your father is dead." I will give you her lies in the exact sequence she delivered them because the architecture matters. Lie 1, a pipeline rupture at the worksite, industrial fire. They have already cremated him per Canadian provincial regulations. The body was not viewable. Lie 2, the funeral home in Calgary needs $28,000 by Friday or they release him to the county for indigent burial. Lie 3, his insurance policy was lapsed. Sunker will not cover costs because the accident is under investigation. Lie 4, and this is the one she had practiced in the mirror. Caleb cannot know yet. He has midterms. Promise me you will not call your brother. That last sentence was the muzzle. The same architecture every fraud of this kind uses. Don't tell anyone. The lie that needs the most isolation is the lie that needs the most silence. I wired $28,000 by Friday afternoon. I drove to Mamaroneck on Saturday. I attended a closed casket memorial service on Sunday, October 13th at 2 p.m. There was a casket. There was a small black-framed photograph of my father in his work coveralls. There was an urn my mother said held his ashes. The urn held archival sand, 4.6 pounds, purchased by my mother in cash on October 12th for $340. The funeral home executed her instructions without verifying a body. There were 43 people at that service. I stood in the front row. I cried. Caleb cried. My Uncle Hank flew in from Phoenix and gave a eulogy. None of us knew. At the exact moment we were standing at that service, my father was eating a sandwich at a galley in Fort McMurray, Alberta, watching a hockey game on a satellite feed and texting his wife. "Love you, Sil. Quiet here. Tell the kids I'll call Sunday at 6 my time." My mother did not respond to that text. She had told him in late September that the cell tower at our area went down for service work, 3 to 6 months. My father, who had spent 31 years trusting his wife about the home he could not see, had believed her. She had buried him on paper, taken his money, and gone radio silent, and the man himself did not know. 23 months. I grieved. I went back to work. The grief counselor I saw weekly, a woman named Hadley Fern, gave me a small notebook in November and told me to write down everything that does not fit, every detail that does not match. Grief asks questions. Listen to the questions. That's when something didn't make sense. My first notebook entry, November 18th, 2024. Mom said the body was not viewable. Then how did Dad's wedding ring get back to her? She is wearing it on her right thumb. That one detail changed everything. Second entry, December 4th, Dad's last text to me was September 22nd. He was supposed to call on October 6th, his birthday weekend, 3 days before he died. Why did he not call? Third entry, December 23rd. Mom paid $22,800 for Caleb's full Cornell tuition from Dad's account. She told me that account was frozen for the insurance investigation. How do you pay from a frozen account? Fourth entry, January 7th, 2025. Mom posted a photo on Facebook from a yacht in Mustique with a man named Roland Vesper. The caption said, "Starting fresh." She wrote it 43 days after the funeral. And that's when I realized he might still be alive. By late February of 2025, I had 11 entries. By March 23, I called Caleb on March 14th, 2025. I said, "Caleb, I need to tell you something I have been thinking. I do not know if Dad's death was real." Long silence. Caleb said, "Nora, I have been keeping a folder." He sent me his folder that night. He had been building it since June of 2024, 4 months before the accident. Caleb had noticed in June that our mother had taken out a $40,000 home equity advance with a signature Caleb did not recognize as his father's. Caleb had photographed the application. He had also quietly photocopied 7 months of Mom's credit card statements from the kitchen drawer. He had been 20 years old. He had not known what to do with the information. He had simply kept it. The folder Caleb sent me was 84 pages. By the next morning, I had filed a Canadian Access to Information request with Sunker Energy Human Resources for my father's employment status as of October 8, 2024. The response came back on April 18, 2025. Daniel Haverson, employee SC3382, was actively employed and on-site at the Fort McMurray North site on October 8, 2024. His most recent safety inspection signature was logged at 14:47 local time on October 9, 2024. October 9, 2024, at 14:47 local Mountain Time was 4:47 p.m. Eastern Time. It was 3 hours after my mother had told me he was dead. If you've been watching for a while, do me a quick favor, subscribe and hit that like button. Costs you nothing, means everything. April 22, 2025, 9:14 a.m. I walked into the offices of an attorney in White Plains named Reese Whitaker. She was 51, steel-rimmed glasses, 14 years as a New York State prosecutor before going into private practice. I slid my folder and Caleb's folder across her desk. She read for 52 minutes. Then she looked up. She said, "Ms. Whitfield, your father is alive. We are going to find him. We are going to bring him home. And then we are going to dismantle your mother's life one piece of paper at a time. Are you in?" I said, "Reese, I'm in." She said, 4 things over the next 17 months. First, find your father quietly without alerting your mother. Second, build the criminal case with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit because death certificate forgery crossing the U.S.-Canadian border is a federal matter. Third, recover your $94,000 plus interest, plus the additional funds stolen from your father. Fourth, wait. Because the moment we tell your father he is legally dead in New York, your mother runs. She took the case on contingency. The meeting with my father happened on June 14, 2025, in a conference room in Calgary, Alberta. My father walked in expecting an HR matter. He saw Caleb and me sitting next to a Canadian attorney named Elspeth MacGregor, and he stopped at the door. He said, "What is going on? Where is your mother?" I said, "Dad, sit down. There is something we need to tell you." Reese spoke for 19 minutes. The fake death certificate, the obituary, the wired $94,000, the home equity advances, the yacht in Mustique, Roland Vesper, the pension drawdown. My father did not speak for the first 12 minutes. At minute 13, he asked very quietly, "How long have you all known I was dead?" I said, "Dad." 20 months. He said, "And I have been writing texts she has been deleting." I said, "Yes." He put his face in his hands. He cried for the first time I had ever seen him cry in 31 years of being his daughter. He had spent 20 months in a metal trailer in northern Alberta wondering why his wife had stopped texting back. He had told himself she was busy. He had told himself the cell tower really was down. When he stopped crying, he looked up. He said, "What do you need from me?" Reese said, "Mr. Haverson, we need you to do nothing. Keep working your rotation as if nothing has happened. Do not contact your wife. In approximately 14 months, when the moment is right, we need you to walk through a particular door at a particular time, holding a particular piece of paper." He said, "What is the particular door?" Reese said, "We do not know yet. Your wife will tell us." They always do. My father nodded. He said, "Then I will keep working, and when the door appears, I will walk through it." He flew back to Fort McMurray on June 17th, and we built the folder. Over the next 15 months, the folder grew to 243 pages. Pages 1 through 22, the fake death certificate. Forensic examiner Hadley Quintero confirmed it was generated on an HP OfficeJet 4650 at my parents' home address, using a publicly available Alberta Vital Statistics template. The registrar's signature was a digital paste. The serial number was assigned to a different decedent. It was made in my mother's home office, one day before she called me. Pages 23 through 31, the obituary. The newspaper had no record of receiving it. A freelance stringer named Donald Pell had been paid $400 in cash through a third-party Venmo account to place it as a courtesy listing. Donald, when subpoenaed, cooperated immediately. Pages 32 through 58, bank records, every wire I had sent. Every transfer to Roland Vesper, to luxury retailers, to a Mediterranean cruise line, to a Mamaroneck contractor. Pages 59 through 94, the Sunker employment records. October 9, 2024, 1447 Mountain. Every paycheck since. Every safety log signature. Pages 95 through 128, the pension drawdown from Vanguard. My mother had used a 2018 POA, real, but long outdated, to initiate $148,000 in drawdowns my father did not authorize. Pages 129 through 167. Photographs Caleb had quietly taken in our mother's kitchen drawer over 14 months. Every receipt, every wire, every luxury purchase. The handbag, the cruise, the country club deposit for a party my name was not on. Pages 168 through 201, the FBI's parallel investigation file. Federal charges drafted in November of 2025. Sitting sealed in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Waiting. Pages 202 through 228, the Roland Vesper file. His accountant, Bertram Holcomb, had quietly conducted due diligence on my mother's widow's status in May of 2026 and had hit a wall. Bertram had not yet told Roland. He was waiting for the right moment to deliver evidence. We were going to give him that moment. Pages 229 through 243, the engagement party, my mother's Facebook announcement, the guest list, the seating chart. My name was not on the seating chart. The door had appeared. September 19, 2026. Saturday, 7:14 p.m. Fenwick Country Club, Westchester County, crystal chandeliers, white hydrangeas, a string quartet, 84 guests in formal wear. I arrived at 7:18 p.m. in a navy dress I had bought at a Burlington consignment shop for $86. Caleb arrived at 7:21 p.m. in his Cornell sport coat. Reese arrived at 7:24 p.m. in a black pantsuit. None of us had been invited. Caleb was on the seating chart. Reese and I were not. We did not need to be invited. We had a different kind of access. Bertram Holcomb met us at the side entrance at 7:27 p.m. He said, "The room is set. Mr. Haverson is in the parking lot in the white pickup. Detective Aldous Kerrigan from the FBI's New York field office is at the bar in a gray suit. He has the warrant. We are 5 minutes from the toast." At 7:34 p.m., the master of ceremonies tapped a glass. My mother stood. She raised her champagne flute. She had been practicing the speech in the mirror for 9 days. She said, "Roland and I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. 2 years ago, I lost the love of my life in a tragic accident. I never thought." The doors at the back of the ballroom opened. A man walked in wearing a navy work jacket with a Sunker Energy patch on the left chest, work boots, a beard streaked with gray. He held a printed copy of his own death certificate in his left hand and a manila folder in his right. For 2 years, I had imagined this moment. It was quieter than I expected. The string quartet stopped playing. My mother's champagne flute did not fall. It froze, halfway to her mouth. The way a frame stops in a film when the projector has malfunctioned. My father walked across the ballroom. He did not run. He did not yell. He walked at the pace of a man who had spent 22 months in a metal trailer at -38 °C and had earned the right to take his time. He stopped 6 feet from my mother. He said, "Sylvia, I am sorry to interrupt your engagement party. There seems to be an administrative issue with my death certificate." He held it up so the room could see it. He said, "It says I died on October 8, 2024. According to Sunker's records, on October 9, 2024, at 14:47 Mountain Time, I signed a safety inspection at the Fort McMurray North site. I have brought a copy of that safety inspection. I have brought 23 paychecks. I have brought my passport. I have brought a notarized affidavit from my foreman confirming I have been alive and working for the past 2 years." He set the death certificate on the head table in front of my mother. He said, "Sylvia, where is the $94,000 my daughter wired you for my funeral?" The ballroom was silent. Roland Vesper stood up slowly. He said, "Sylvia, is this man your husband?" My mother did not answer. He said, "Sylvia, is this man your husband?" My mother said very quietly, "Roland, I can explain." Roland set his champagne flute down on the table. He took the engagement ring, valued at $87,000, off her hand. She did not resist. He pocketed it. He turned to Bertram. He said, "Bertram, cancel everything." Bertram nodded. Bertram had been waiting 6 weeks to nod. Roland turned to my mother. He said, "Sylvia, we are done." He walked out of the ballroom at 7:42 p.m. 47 seconds later, Detective Aldous Kerrigan walked up to my mother holding a sealed federal warrant. He said, "Mrs. Haverson, you are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, forgery of a death certificate, mail fraud, and federal insurance fraud. Please come with me." He cuffed her at 7:43 p.m. in front of 84 guests at her own engagement party. In a ballroom Roland Vesper had paid $14,000 to reserve. After Detective Kerrigan led my mother out, my father sat down at the head table. He looked at me. He said, "Nora, come up here." I walked up. Caleb followed. Reese followed. My father stood. He said, "My name is Daniel Haverson. I am 64 years old. I am the man Sylvia Haverson told all of you was dead. I want to thank a few people." He turned to Caleb. He said, "My son Caleb, you started keeping records when you were 20 years old. You photographed receipts in our kitchen drawer when no one had asked you to. You believed your sister when she called you in March of 2025 and said something was wrong. You are 22 years old. You will graduate from Cornell in May. I am the proudest father in this room tonight." Caleb cried, quietly. The way Caleb cries. My father turned to me. He said, "My daughter Nora. You wired $94,000 in 2024 because your mother told you I was dead. You believed her because you trusted her. Trust is not stupidity. Trust is what good people do. You also kept a notebook. You filed a Canadian access request. You found the timeline that did not match. You called your brother. You hired Reese. You built the folder. And then, Nora, this is the part I want everyone in this room to understand. You waited. You let me keep working in Fort McMurray for 15 more months because the case required it. Patience is a tool. You used it." He turned to Reese. He said, "Ms. Whitaker, you are exactly the kind of attorney every quiet person in America needs and almost never finds. Thank you." Reese nodded once. She did not smile. My father looked at the room. He said, "There is a $94,000 wire from my daughter that I am personally repaying tonight. I have transferred it from my Vanguard account 30 minutes ago. It hit your checking account at 7:11 p.m., Nora." He paused. He said, "To Roland Vesper, wherever you are tonight, sir, I am sorry. You were lied to as much as I was. The difference is you had a forensic accountant. Hire Bertram a steakhouse dinner. He earned it." A small laugh from Bertram. Bertram had earned it. My father turned to me one more time. He said, "Nora, Caleb, let's go home." He folded the death certificate twice, put it in his jacket pocket. We walked out of the ballroom at 8:14 p.m. The dominoes fell in order. September 21st. My father filed for divorce in Westchester County Superior Court at 9:02 a.m. The federal record was filed as Exhibit 1. September 22nd. The federal indictment was unsealed. United States v. Sylvia Haverson, Southern District of New York. Wire fraud, identity theft, forgery of a foreign government document, mail fraud, and conspiracy. Maximum exposure, 20 years federal. October 14th. My father's $94,000 plus accrued interest, $104,720 total, was transferred into my checking account. I framed the deposit confirmation. It hangs above the kitchen counter where I had eaten the turkey sandwich 2 years earlier. December 10th. My mother pled guilty to 4 of the 5 federal counts. Mandatory sentence, 4 to 7 years at FCI Danbury, full restitution, forfeiture of all assets purchased with the stolen funds, the car, the renovation, the handbag, everything. December 14th. Sentenced to 57 months at FCI Danbury. Eligible for release May 2031. My father moved into a small two-bedroom in Burlington in November, 4 blocks from my apartment. He had not lived in the same city as me in 17 years. He works remotely now. He visits my office every Thursday at noon for lunch. He brings me a cup of coffee. He pays. He insists. Caleb graduated from Cornell in May of 2027, magna cum laude. He took a job with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit in their Manhattan field office. Detective Aldous Kerrigan is his supervisor. He cleared his first case, an elder fraud scheme in Long Island, in 9 days. Roland Vesper sent me a handwritten letter in January of 2027. It said only, Ms. Whitfield. Enclosed, find a check for $50,000 funded from a portion of the engagement ring resale value. Please accept this as an apology I am unable to deliver in person. RV. I cashed it. Half to Caleb's first-year FBI moving expenses. Half towards something my father and I had been quietly building since November of 2026, the Haverson Quiet Daughter Fund. Founded December 2026, $84,000 endowment, growing. The fund pays for forensic document examinations and initial attorney consultations for adult children who suspect a parent is committing financial fraud but cannot afford to investigate. As of November 2027, the fund has helped 17 people. 3 have recovered money. 2 have brought criminal cases. None of them have lost a parent who is actually alive. It is November of 2027 now, 14 months since the ballroom. I work most evenings on the 7th floor of the medical center. My father comes by Thursdays at noon. He still wears the Navy work jacket sometimes, the one with the sunker patch, even though he has not been at a camp in almost 2 years. He says it is comfortable. I think it is honest. Some clothes you keep because they remember things you cannot say out loud yet. Here is what I want to say. The cruelest people in your family do not always sound cruel. Sometimes they sound grieving. Sometimes they sound frantic. Sometimes they sound exactly the way a real widow sounds because they have been rehearsing the part for 14 months in front of a bathroom mirror. If you are the daughter who wired the money, listen. You were not stupid. You were trained, by every Sunday dinner of your childhood, to trust the woman whose voice came through the phone first. Trust is not a character flaw. It is the foundation of every functional family. The flaw is what your mother did with it. Build the folder before you need it. Every transfer. Every detail in your grief journal that does not fit the timeline. The folder is not a betrayal of your grief. It is what allows your grief to eventually mean something true. Wire the clinic. Wire the funeral home. Wire the hospital. Never wire the relative. Real cancer leaves a paper trail. Real death leaves a paper trail. Real love does not ask you to bypass the documentation. You do not have to scream. You do not have to cry. You just have to be holding the folder when the man your mother buried walks back into the room she has been building on his bones. Let the silence do the work. Mom, you buried him on paper. You were the one who ended up underground. Quiet women eventually speak. And when they do, the room goes still. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and join our community for more true life stories. We'll see you in the next one.